What's up everyone, John from Beyond ARTV. It's time for a controversial episode of 7 on Sunday, and I say controversy because it's about 7 bands that I cannot get into. This is part 2 of the bands that I can't get into, a little mini-series that I'll probably do about once a year. You guys have been asking for it, and here we are. Now, fair warning, just because I have the band on the list, it doesn't mean that I don't like any songs from them. I think that people hear, oh, he can't get into them, that means that he hates everything that they've done, and that's really not the case at all. In fact, every band that I have on the list, for the most part, I at least respect, and sometimes I really admire them. It's just that me personally, I've never been able to find a way to truly connect with their music. Now, like I said, of course, this is just my opinion, but let me know down below, what are some bands or even an artist that you can't get into that everyone else seems to love? Drop a comment now, leave a like on the video, and let's just go ahead and get into it before things get out of hand. I would have hated to have had this opinion in the UK in the 90s, but me personally, I've never been able to get into the band Blur. Damon Albarn is definitely known for a variety of different things, but Blur is really what put him on the map. I admire the work of him and his band members such as Graham Coxon, but honestly, it's never been for me. I had a roommate back in the day that was extremely obsessed with anything that Damon Albarn did, and I was kind of forced into listening to a lot of Blur music very early on. I'm talking being given CDs, being given little playlists to listen to, and that's fine if you want to get your friends into music, but I don't think that necessarily shoving it down somebody's throat is always the best way to go about it. Maybe that's why I don't really care for Blur all that much, and even revisiting all of the bands, including Blur, before really making this video or even preparing for it, I just didn't find myself liking that much. I find a lot of their later material to be a little bit too bloated and a little bit too, I guess, over the top and also kind of dry. It kind of feels like paint peeling to me at times, and their early stuff, while kind of adventurous, definitely in the Britpop era, of course, it just doesn't grab my attention with its lyrical content or the way that Albarn performs as a vocalist. I like him much better with Gorillaz and some of the other projects and EPs and other musical endeavors that he's worked on, and this overall Blur for me, it just kind of bores me, and that's sad but true for me. Blur, of course, do have their classic songs, and even if I don't necessarily like them myself, I at least respect them and enjoy them from a musical point of view. They've got some good ones in the back catalog. I even enjoyed some of the cuts off of their most recent album, The Magic Whip, and I also like some of their older songs like Coffee and TV. At number 6, we have Def HAVANA, an English rock band that have had many stylistic shifts and evolutions over the years. They started off as kind of a post-hardcore type band, moved into like some heartland rock type stuff, a little bit more of a folky tendency, and I suppose that was okay. In fact, I found it kind of fitting for their lead singer's voice, maybe that era of the band around 2014 and the albums that were dropping then. And then last year, they put out the album All These Countless Nights, and I saw several of my critic friends actually talking about this, praising it, and I decided to check it out, and I felt like a little bit underwhelmed. I felt like it was pretty lackluster in a lot of ways. I feel like the musicianship was pretty strong on much of the LP, but also I found myself just thinking this sounds like nothing extraordinary, nothing that would break the mold for me and make me go out of my way to listen to these guys again. But I heard that album and I was like, you know what, I need to check out more. I need to make sure that I'm not into this band. And there are songs on that album, All These Countless Nights, and even their new one, Rituals, that I like. And Rituals went for a little bit more of a glossy electro pop rock type feel, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that at all. It's just the songs weren't really clicking for me personally. It's like something that's almost background music. And I do love some of their songs. Yes, I'm talking about Love off of the All These Countless Nights album. And I find a lot of the musicianship to be very strong. Great guitar work here and there. I find some of the drum performances to be standout, and even the vocals. But overall, I just, so far at least, am not feeling like this band is for me.
Old enough, we're gonna teach them to fly. You and me together could do anything, baby.
Now, my number 5 selection, I do understand that maybe this could be because I've never personally seen them live in concert, but anyways, I did have to include Dave Matthews Band. I've never really been able to connect to this band's music. In fact, I kind of found it yawn-worthy. A lot of the AC, adult contemporary type stuff, just kind of makes me sit back and think maybe I would like this if I was in a really certain mood, or if I was about 20 years older. Maybe I was born at the wrong time to connect to some of these songs. I don't really like that excuse though, because there's so many older bands that I do love and get into and connect with easily. But Dave Matthews Band, for me, have just always been something that I would skip over. I never went out of my way to seek out their music. They do have a few songs like Funny the Way It Is that strike me in a certain way. They're still not maybe my favorites of all time by any means, but they're enjoyable at least, songs that I do occasionally seek out. But for the most part, Dave Matthews Band kinda don't really take that many risks in my opinion, and even though I appreciate the deep layering, the variety of instrumentation that's used on much of their work, it's just something that often feels overly bloated, long, and just not that interesting. At number 4, we've got the band Against the Current. A self-made band, at least at the start. They started off doing covers on YouTube, and they gradually grew in popularity and eventually signed to the famous, maybe infamous label, Fueled by Ramen. And since then, they've put out one official album. They've got another one on the way. In Our Bones came out in 2016, and I had so many requests to talk about that. And I heard it, and it did nothing for me. It's like the propeller that wouldn't start on the plane or the boat or whatever. You get the metaphor. It just wasn't doing anything for me, and it wasn't going anywhere. I felt like they were very, very bland pop rock that was very timid, very safe, and very watered down. It's themes that we've all heard before, and okay, maybe that's fine because a lot of songs definitely have similar themes, but the fact is that the music, the instrumental, the guitars, the electronics, they weren't doing anything to sway my opinion positively. And with the release of some of their new songs off of their upcoming album that's due out this fall, I just find myself thinking, why would I care about this when there are so many other pop rock groups out there, or even pop outfits that are just more so embracing of pop and not trying to categorize themselves as alternative? Why would I listen to Against the Current and songs like Strangers when I could just go listen to something else? I'm sorry, it's just not for me, and I just feel flat out bored with the production that is so flat, the instrumentals that are so flat, and even the vocals that don't evoke really any emotion. Set It Off landed number 3 on my list of bands that I can't get into. It's an interesting trajectory that the band has followed over the past 8 or 9 years or so. They started off, Cody Carson had this idea in mind, the lead singer, where he wanted to mix a variety of different things, whether it be an instrumental that felt like it was kind of from a movie, or something that had strings, or an orchestral vibe, and mixing that in with harder guitars and also pop sensibilities. It's something that definitely captivated me back in those days with the Horrible Kids EP. I found that to be pretty good. It hasn't aged all that well, but that and their debut album Cinematics are just fine. Then they seemed to move into this kind of boy band phase where they went for a really poppy aesthetic, and I just didn't connect with any of the songs. They felt loose, lackluster, effortless, and kind of lazy in many places. And I realize now that they are trying, I guess, to kind of go back and explore their roots, but even that comeback single just didn't do that much for me. I found it to definitely be better than what they were doing over the past 5 years or so, but still, it seems like they're one of those bands that's embraced by the alt-press Warped Tour type scene, but they really don't belong there, and as a result, I just kind of see them as a little bit of a stain. I know that sounds mean, but I just want to scrub them off and say, no, not here. Okay, you want to be a pop band? Go for it, but at least embrace it, and I just don't feel like they've really done that.
Flash, them stop I smash. Abraxas, hydroplane, massive. That's his fight for rain and madness. Massive mind and lace that with black catfish on the ways of stratus. Curb right to fall that flying. Don't wait for me if I care about anything, anywhere.
I'm already braced for all of the intellectuals that will tell me that I'm just not smart enough to understand their music. Death Grips at number 2. Maybe this could have been number 1, maybe it should have been number 1, but you'll see why in just a minute. Death Grips are an experimental hip-hop and alternative and a lot of different mishmash of genres type thing. I mean, imagine like the demo montage of Heck by Kurt Cobain that he put together by splicing a lot of different things that would often kind of startle the listener, and then imagine that as more of a hip-hop project with MC Ride on vocals, and that's kind of Death Grips. I'm not going to say in a nutshell because there's a lot more to it than that, but just for a surface level explanation, we're going to say that. Death Grips from the start I have never understood. I saw Fantano's 10 out of 10 review of The Money Store, of course, and I listened to the album and I just didn't get it. I still don't get it. I listen to their music, and even as recently as Year of the Snitch, I've tried out albums, and they just sound like noise to me. I know that maybe sounds like me being like an 80-year-old guy that's like, oh, turn down your punk rock music there, kiddo, I don't like that noise. But for real, it just kind of sounds that way to me. Maybe it's too avant-garde for my little mind to comprehend, or maybe I just have a different taste in music. I respect the fact that a lot of people love them, and I understand that they are doing different things, and I'm all for that. It just doesn't mean that everybody has to love it. I hate it when people are like, well, it got amazing critical reviews, so if you don't like it, then you're not with the times, or you're not allowed to feel that way. It's weird to me, and I've had many viewers tell me that they're not really into Death Grips either, so it's just interesting to see how this band can be so divisive. I think they're meant to be that way, and I respect the fact that they just don't give a fuck and do whatever reckless songs they want to do, but at the same time, I cannot in any way get into it.
'Cause I know you always know when you lie.
Numero uno. Dance, Gavin, dance. Oh my god, I have been flooded and inundated with requests to cover this band since, I don't even know, probably since I started my YouTube channel. Before it was Johnny Craig in the band doing the clean vocals at least. He was in and out, and I at least like that material a little bit more. But since Tristan Pearson joined on clean vocals and just all of the stuff that they tried to do with being so sporadic and spry musically, it doesn't work. In fact, I think it kind of sounds super whiny. The vocals are just nasally, and the way that they hit those high pitches, it does nothing for me other than make me want to turn it off. I was going to cover their new album, but I decided after about 5 tracks of listening that that's about all I could handle, and I didn't need to make myself sit through this. There's no reason for me to continue checking out this band if I know that they are not for me, so please stop with the requests. And I know by me saying that, I'm just going to get people commenting, please review Mothership, it was the album of the year a couple of years ago, review it. Why haven't you reviewed it? Review it, John. I think that their fans think that they're a lot more than they actually are. They treat them like gods, and for some reason they get praised in so many communities, subreddits, everything else. And I know that we're all different, but I just don't feel like this band walks on water like people think they do. They hype them up as the band of the decade when actually it's just more rock material that maybe does a cool math rock thing here and there, but really it's not anything all that unique or special. Those were all just my opinions and takes on things, and I understand that a lot of those are probably hot takes. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you have trouble getting into any of these bands? Maybe you're a fan of all of them. Let me know why in the comment section down below, and you can always drop a comment letting me know what you'd like to see on SOS in the future. Other than that, please drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and consider supporting me on Patreon at the top link in the description. Patreon is a great way to help me keep making videos like this on a monthly basis, so please tap that annotation in the corner if you would like to go over there and support each month. If you would like to see last week's episode of SOS, then tap right over here, or see the first episode of bands that I can't get into right over here. All of my socials can be found in the description down below, and I'll see you soon for more on Beyond ARTV.